Okay, the next question is from Steve Gerbs.
What
was that?
Is that inside? I don't get that one.
Steve Gerbs. Did you
Is
say?
that
Did
a-
you say it on purpose
is
like
that a
that?
inside
Nope,
joke?
that's the
Gerbs?
literal. That's the name. Steve Gerbs.
But the way you said it,
Is that an inside joke?
but did y'all hear it? The inflection on the gerbs just goes up.
I'm sorry. I think it reminded me of Steve Jobs, but in some weird way of saying it. I don't know.
You figure you had
can cut
alpha
all
or
this
something,
out.
or
I just
That was
didn't
a joke I
know.
didn't get.
okay, we'll keep
Just
going.
we got some interesting usernames
Poor
today,
Steve.
and I'm
Steve.
feeling.
Steve. I don't know why she's saying your last name like that, but we'll just give it a
It literally
revision.
says
amazing.
Steve Gerbs.
Gerbs.
Oh, there you go. Your voice does
Is
it
this a
naturally.
play
It's a
on-
really cool thing. I love the inflection.
It's
of it.
not a
here,
play on
right?
Steve Jobs. I think
Yeah,
it is.
but you say jobs low, like normal, like
Gerbs.
you're saying gerbs, just all of a sudden goes up an octave or something.
I feel very vulnerable today with all these usernames. You guys are really throwing me for a loop here. Okay. So, Steve has a question. I'm sorry, I'm dying. Okay. It says, I'm 28. I have $70K in private student loans and about $70K in my company 401k. They match 100% up to 7%. Would it be worth withdrawing what I have to pay down the student loan in the next year? Discuss.
They give interest rate.
Would it be worth drawing? Like, is he talking about taking money out of his 401k?
Yeah.
I mean, if truthfully, you don't even need interest rate. I wouldn't take money out of my.
I was gonna
401k.
say, what do you? I know what you're gonna
So
say.
I think the question is, hey, I've got this student loan debt, but I've also got these retirement assets, right? And my employer does a 7% match, 100% up to 7 is what he said, right? So my employer's like putting money in this. Should I be clever and maybe start taking some money out of this 401k and use that to satisfy the student loans? Brian, what are some of the issues with people pulling out, especially young people at the age of 28, pulling money out of 401k? So let's just start with that part, and then we can talk about the student loan.
Well, I mean, when you're 28 years of age, you have the most powerful ingredient to wealth creation, which is time. So if you take money out in your 20s, that money essentially you just killed that your army of dollars. I mean, because they now don't have the potential to grow upon themselves in a very, powerful way. I mean, think about that. 20-something-year-old person making that type of decision. That might feel good. And this is the problem with all bad things in life. In the short term, they feel really good. I mean, you make bad decisions, whether you're talking about overeating, if you're talking about going out there and buying a new outfit, or even buying the latest new gadget that causes you not to save or do things. It all feels so good in the short term. And that's why people who are very logical, and addictions and other things kind of reach these bridges where it makes sense right now. But because we are as humans wired in this instant gratification or present bias. But the reality is you're robbing your future self. And those the skill set of deferred gratification is the most valuable thing because it allows you to leverage that component of time and the compounding growth. Now, a lot of people will say, yeah, but he has $70,000 of private student loans. This is the part where, once again, Coach Corley shows up. And I yell at people to, yes, this is where incremental decision, you have to put a fire under the fact that not only, and this is where the messy middle comes from, do you have to save for your future self, but you do have to extinguish those high interest debts like the student loans and other things, especially if they're unfavorable. Get creative. I mean, and I know that sounds so much easier to say than to actually do, but you got to figure out how you cut your expenses to the bone. How do you actually save more by earning more? Because you really only have two choices, cut expenses or you have to make more money. But going and robbing your future self by taking retirement assets is a bridge to nowhere.
Yeah, not only are you taking them off the field, one of the things that really concerns me is that retirement assets are specifically designed for retirement. So much so that if you were to pull these dollars out at age 28, you know what happens?
No.
You got to pay taxes on them. So you're pulling money
And penalties.
out. You got to pay taxes, and you're going to get hit with a penalty. So everyone's like, some people think, well, what are the interest rates on student loans or private? They could be pretty bad. Well, let's say that you're in like the 15% marginal tax bracket. Maybe you live in a state that's 5, so you've got, let's say 17% on your. Then you got a 10%, but the 27. I bet those student loans aren't at 27% because that's essentially the penalty you would pay, the cost of getting access to those dollars. I just don't think that pulling money out of retirement makes sense almost in any scenario, especially to pay for like student loans, because it's so costly for young folks to do that because of the taxes and penalties.